Welcome back. I'm Kim Bailey. She's Fulyana Osborne, and this is Inside Exec. We're finalising our review of the last 10 years, and in this section of the podcast, we're looking at the value of the case studies that you have sent into us from time to time, as well as what we both personally have gained from being able to bring you all of these insights into management over the last 10 years. So let's pick up the conversation with Fulyana talking about case studies.
You mentioned case studies. I love the case studies. I know that that's what the person asking what they brought the case study, they want to know about this particular thing. What I also kind of a bit surprised is that when we had a case study, then the feedback we got back is, I'm glad somebody brought this because that's what I wanted to know. It's sort of one person asking, but there's probably 10 others who wanted the same topic.
Yeah.
So keep those case studies coming because they don't just help you, they help many other people, which is great.
Very much the iceberg situation where, you only see a third of the problem, but 2/3 is below the surface. So we're only hearing a third of the people who are prepared to say, I need help with this. But there's all these other people who are having the same issue and need help as well. So we're always here for the case studies. We both enjoy the case studies because it really makes us focus on what would we do in this situation. And often our solutions are different to one another. And I think that helps you as well to see that there's not just one path that you have to follow, that there's lots of things that you can think about and ways that you can address issues that you might not have thought of before.
And the other thing is on that point is that people think, oh, I thought I was the only one feeling that way. And then they realize that this is not uncommon. This is one topic that keeps coming up and people from all walks of life, seem to relate to it is the imposter syndrome. So many times we touched on that in so many ways, and that's just one example. So yes, any case studies are always really helpful because they real for someone, but multiple people.
In terms of the other stats and things that have come to mind, we distribute the podcast. One of the questions we had is how do people access it? And so we distribute through the RSS feed, which is directly off the website itself, through Amazon Podcasts now, and always through iTunes. We've always been with iTunes. And of course, we have a YouTube channel that up to now is just the audio recording of the podcast. But going forward, as you know, as we announced some time back, will be video as well. And it'll just be the talking heads. And it won't be every podcast, but it'll be the ones where we think that it will benefit you to actually see our expressions, our physical expressions as well in terms of that topic. Other question that we often get asked is about the intro music. So the music we use for the introduction and the outro, it was commissioned especially for us, did it through Fiverr. And those of you who have used Fiverr, it was actually written by a composer who is based in Sweden, and most of his work he does for the movie industry. I was delighted to get email from him. I sent him email just recently to catch up, to see how he was going, and got some email back to say that all was well and to congratulate us on the efforts and to know that a piece of his music is being played at least once a week somewhere in the world for the last 10 years. And that it's nice for him to know that has resonated with us. I don't think we would ever change it. We have changed the logo a couple of times. Well, once we've changed the logo. And once again, I went to Fiverr for that because I thought I just want something simple that is easy to recognise and remember. And mostly it was because at that stage we were looking at YouTube and we needed something that was eye-catching, a little bit of eye candy. So we've got the logo. Probably won't change that. I like the way it looks, and she doesn't have a say, so
I like it.
But the intro music has always been very popular. And I don't think I would ever consider changing it because it just, to me now, after 10 years of listening to it for so long and doing the editing, it's just my marker in my head of what's happening.
Yeah.
The other notes that I've taken, just looking at the notes that I did for talking today, I've talked about, in terms of the personal journey, I've talked about the fact that we had talked for a couple of decades about doing something together. We had worked together initially in different areas, as I mentioned earlier, but in the same organisation, and struck up a friendship through eating, probably. I don't really recall why, but it was probably going out to lunch or something to do with food. We were, in terms of the podcast, we were one of the earliest adopters of the podcast technology. We certainly saw an increase in podcast activity we were probably 2 or 3 years into our podcast before we saw just this blooming industry around podcasts. And now there is a huge amount of them out there. They don't all last long because it's hard work. I won't shirk away from the fact that it does take time. It takes time for us to record it. It takes time then for me to edit it and to put it up, to write the introduction, to get it onto all of the platforms where we put it, because we have links through LinkedIn. We don't have a Facebook page. We did have a Facebook page. I made a unilateral decision that we weren't going to have a Facebook page anymore because I just don't think it's the appropriate platform for what we are doing. And I don't think that our listening audience would be going to Facebook to look for the latest podcast for this activity, whereas they would be on LinkedIn. That is where our demographic lies. And so just in terms of a little bit of advice to people, if you're thinking about doing it, think about how you're going to distribute the podcast itself. There's now, of course, lots of podcast aggregators out there who will distribute the podcast for you. Think about your demographic, your listening audience. Where are they going to listen? Where are they going to look for it? Where are they going to listen, and how are they going to listen? And that's why I chose the royal I chose. She just doesn't argue on some things. It's just so good. YouTube, because that is a platform that is universal. iTunes, because so many people use that as their default listening application. Amazon Podcasts, simply because I wanted somewhere where Android phone users could access it. I guess that not so much listening through the website these days. The RSS feed was the way to go when we first started, but not as many listening through that medium as there are through the links through other places. So just in terms of your own podcast, if you're thinking about it for whatever reason, think about who's going to be listening and how will they access it, because there are some platforms that are just not worth the effort that you will put into to get them listed there.
I agree with that. There's something I haven't even had a chance to share with you, Kim, yet, but YouTube seemed to be more people when they talk, say that's where they go for our podcast. This is really exciting and interesting. When you look at who our initial target audience were, like CEOs, one down, then middle management, aspiring managers, etc. But very, very recently, as I said, I haven't had a chance to tell you about it, I was talking to someone, about 3 people, all at uni, and they know each other, and they actually listened to our podcast through somebody telling them whatever, word of mouth, right? And what I think, based on that conversation, the feedback I got from those 3, is that uni students are interested in those topics when they're still making up their minds about where they're going to go and what they want to do. I was surprised in the sense that they have access to so much material, and they said, no, we don't get the chance to talk to someone who's done that, who's walked those corridors. And to us, this is a great way. So it's very exciting because that's another group that might, future target market, and they actually following us. So you should be able to see more and more of them asking us. And so what I said to those 3, okay, don't forget case studies. Tell us what you want and we'll deliver. Yes.
Yeah, it is exciting because it is so difficult for me to think about how I could possibly access that demographic. I guess I don't even try, because I just don't think that they would be interested in that. They're still getting all their theoretical learning. They're still getting excited about getting their own practical learning happening. It's an area that I'm blind to. So it's really good that has been taken over in some sense and addressed in that way. There you go, already just in reviewing it, learning for me about the demographic of the listening audience is perhaps, I need to review that and need to think about that, and I need to look at what opportunities there are out there. So, of course, she's given me work to do.
Well, it's good for a change. It's good for a change.
I'm just looking at my notes again. The earliest adopters of podcast technology. It was a chance, as I mentioned earlier, to review my own journey and learning and to assess it on a wider scale rather than just this narrow, I'm a consultant, I go in and I do these things, I fix these individual problems, but I have all this much more broader experience that I can bring to bear. And I guess lastly, the thing I've put down here is that it was an opportunity for me to have a mentor unofficially, because there were times in those 10 years where I struggled with, particularly with the not-for-profit organisations that I had helping hand in. And even with all of my experience, I didn't know what to do next. And Fulyana, knowing some of the people who were involved, I was able to have that sounding board. So it came back to, when I wrote it down, it came back to us thinking about, initially it was about having this mentor that was not an individual person, but was something you could listen to and you could think about. And, if you had an issue, then you could ask them. And that's where the case studies came from. In that sense, the podcast met the framework that we had talked about initially, about it being this sort of pseudo mentor for anyone want to particularly follow a mentor in an official capacity or in a physical capacity, but could have a sounding board or a sounding area or listen to some information that would help them in their journey or make decisions or follow a path or look for more information, whatever else it was. And so I very much appreciate the opportunity to be able to have that in my working arena. But also I have really enjoyed the opportunity of being challenged every month. It's not just that I have to get all the technology right, but it's about, and for those of you who have worked with Fulyana or who have her as a mentor or as an accountability partner, you will understand that she can be very scary.
Oh, not scary.
You only have to ask her family. She can be very scary. See, she's got no answer to that one. And so each month it's been, I have to be on my game. I have to think straight. I have to be focused. And that's a good thing, just in a general sense, in terms of working, is that if you've got someone or something that makes you focus, makes you be in the moment, makes you think about all of the things that you need to have in place to do a particular task, then that's a good discipline for you to have. And so I've appreciated that, because for so many years, and I still continue to work for myself on my own, and I've got a little bit of discipline these days, isn't it? I'm doing some workshops outside of the corporate world, but in the floral art world, I'm doing some workshops that are weekly. And so I have to be very disciplined about this particular time and having these things ready and knowing what I'm going to say to these people and giving them the feedback. But once I'm in the moment, I'm fine. But it's about the freedom when you're working on your own is wonderful, but you do need to have some discipline.
Yes.
So it's about bringing back the discipline, and whether it's once a month or whether it's once a week, that you know that there is a disciplined time where you have to get this stuff right. And that keeps you going. It keeps you on top of the game. It keeps you interested in what you're doing. And so I've really appreciated that.
Well, I agree. It goes both ways, because it did exactly the same for me. It sort of made me, you were very bossy, and that made me
do my reputation.
What you just said. One of the things that you might be interested in when I talked about the uni students, I just looked at my notes and I was curious about which topics were they interested in. And funnily enough, they were interested in questions to ask the leader. There's a session on that and a guest about questions of what would you ask when you meet a leader to learn from them. The one about what should you keep you up at night. And the third one was, when should we start developing leaders? They were very interested in that because they felt that should happen before they even go into the workforce. It's really good. So again, there you go. It kept me learning all the time. Even at the social function, you meet people, they say something, I don't know these people, but I'm learning all the time. So it's really good for us. We're learning and we're helping others learn. So that's great.
I guess we get to the point now where we say where to from here. So as we said right at the beginning, we're not stopping. We are continuing on. There will be more video involved in the next period of time. I won't put a time limit on the next period of time. We will introduce video because what we're finding is that video and the talking heads and that human-to-human interaction is becoming more important. Not to disparage AI and all of the developments in that area in any way, but people are still people. And we still want to encourage you to think that they're real people talking about real experience. And so we'll have the talking heads in the videos as well as the audio stuff. So there'll always be opportunities for you to listen to it or watch it, whichever way you choose to do so. We're going to continue with the guests and the case studies, obviously. We've got guests lined up for the rest of this calendar year. And then in December, I generally would look at what we can do in the following year. I'm being very picky about guests at the moment because we're getting a lot of requests and a lot of requests for people who are more entrepreneurs or in business as individuals or in partnerships. And I would be interested in getting some feedback from the listeners about whether you would like to hear from these people or not. That my concern is that they're going to talk too much about the financial side of things, which is not relevant to many people. But if we can give them topics that they have to stick to, that there might be some value in that as well. But I don't want to overload. What I've tried to do with the guests is always have a range of issues and topics that they're talking about. And so we need to make sure that continues, that there is relevance to the listening audience. And it's not just me saying, oh, well, I like this topic or I like this person or this was a good guest last time, we'll talk to them again. It just helps me if you tell me what you'd like to hear and I find a guest that matches up with those skills, then it's going to be of use to a broader range of people. As we just talked about, it's not just you. There will be someone or a group of people out there who are interested in that topic as well. And the final thing I had on my list was that at the moment, and I think for most of the time that we have been releasing podcasts, it's been on a Tuesday, and that's probably going to change to Thursday. Just because it's an easier day for me to get all of the technology in place. Tuesdays can often be a bit pressured in terms of the other things that I need to get done. You know, after 10 years, it's time for a change.
Yeah,
why not?
Very reasonable.
And I know that you'll listen to it whenever it comes out. So it's just a heads up that, no, we haven't disappeared, but I can't say when, but it might just change from Tuesdays to Thursdays. Well, so that's everything I've got on my list that I've talked about.
Well, I covered everything I also wanted to cover, except I'd like to finish off with a huge thank you again to the listeners, to the guests, and for everyone who on the side were helping, supporting, encouraging, and there's many, many of you. So thank you. These 10 years have been fantastic for us. We look forward to continuing and to having more and more people engaged in this.
And I too would like to thank everyone who's listened, everyone who's given us feedback, all of the guests, all of the people who have written to us about the book and been very encouraging about the book. The book is due to be released on the 16th of June, which is the date of the first podcast. It'll be available through Amazon. You'll see the indications on the website of the fact that it's available. It'll be available as a soft cover physical book as well as a Kindle. So opportunities there for you to get it either way. I want to end by thanking Fulyana, but I also want to thank, there's a person behind Fulyana that we don't see who has been my saviour. He has been the one who has made sure that she's turned up every time I need her, that she's continued to be committed to what she's supposed to be doing, and she gets into trouble from him whenever she doesn't do the right thing. And so I really appreciate that I've got my right hand there to keep her in line, and I can't say how much the last 10 years has meant to me in terms of my professional and personal development. So It's been great, and we certainly look forward to bringing you more of the same for the future.
Great. You two gang up on me. That's expected now. Yes.
It works. It's fine. All right. I am going to end there, and we will see you and talk to you in our next podcast. I'm Kim Bailey. She's Fulyana Osborne, and this is Inside Exec at 10 years.